This is the ritual for the Nazarite. On the day that the term as Nazarite is completed, the person shall be brought to the entrance of the tent of meeting. As an offering to the Eternal, the person shall present one male lamb in its first year without blemish for a burnt offering, one ewe lamb in its first year without blemish for a sin offering, one ram without blemish for an offering of well-being. What or who is a Nazarite, and why do they have to bring a sin offering after their term of being a Nazarite is done? We learn in our Parsha this week that a Nazarite is someone who sets themselves apart from the community for a period of time and dedicates themselves to God. It doesn't sound, at first blush, something very familiar to us as Jews. We think about people setting themselves apart for God. We think of nuns or monks. But in Judaism, well, there was a tradition that people could make a vow, not for their whole life, but for a period of time. The only Nazarite that we know who had to be a Nazarite for his whole life was Samson, and his mother made the vow before he was born. So he didn't have much of a choice. The Nazarite refrains from drinking wine or actually any kind of grape product and vows not to cut their hair, and stays separate from the community. And in order to re-enter the community, as we've just heard, there's this ritual that's done, and they have to bring these offerings, and one of the offerings it brought is the chatat, the sin offering. What has the Nazarite done wrong that the Nazarite would have to bring a sin offering? After all, he or she, and it's very clear, it's any gender here in the text, that this person has separated themselves to be holy and to be pure. So what could be the purpose for the chatat, for the sin offering? Well, as you won't be surprised, there's an argument in the tradition. And one argument is that the Nazarite has sinned because Judaism is about being in community and not separating ourselves apart. And we have a responsibility to live within community. And that actually the Nazarite has done something wrong by making this vow. But there's another tradition that says, no, the Nazarite didn't do anything wrong by separating themselves out. But as the Nazarite is now coming back and living within society, it's going to be very hard not to make mistakes and not to sin. And so this is a preemptive offering. I'm going to make a sin offering for that first mistake I'm going to make now that I have to be back and live with human beings, because it's messy living life in community and with other people. We're likely to do something wrong or to hurt them. Of course, both of these strains are true within our tradition. It's important sometimes that we step off the path, that we take time for ourselves. We take time to develop a relationship with the holy. That's what Shabbat is about. It's not about separating from other human beings, but it is about separating from our day-to-day lives and the normal things that we interact with in order to have a time of holiness. And we have other times in which we are engaged in life and engaged with the world. And we know when we do that, we're going to make some mistakes sometimes. And so as we welcome this Shabbat, we think about that balance in our lives, a balance of living within community, living with others, interacting, and also time where the interactions are not about the day-to-day stuff, not about the places in which we might get into a conflict, but are about enjoyment, about rest, about peace. So this is our day in which we get off the treadmill. We stand to the side. And it's not sinful for us to do this. It's important, just as it's important that we live in the context of other human beings and work in a world that we increasingly find is violent and difficult, problematic, that we need that rest and we need that refreshment, just like the Nazarite knew that they needed in their lives. And so we take a few minutes as we welcome this Shabbat to arrive in this place, to arrive in our bodies, to find an opportunity to separate ourselves from our workday lives, from what has happened before and what will happen as we pick up the new week, to get off the treadmill, to have time for rest and reflection, because we know it's important to live within community and to do that which is right in our society. And yet, we can only really do that successfully if we also take time for ourselves, for contemplation, for growth, for God. And so I invite you now to close your eyes if you're comfortable, or to find a place that you can look at softly, a soft gaze. To roll your shoulders back, especially if you've been spending a lot of time in the car in front of the computer and finding yourself hunched over. Just to open up your heart, find a little space, not to sit up ramrod straight, which is uncomfortable, but to find yourself in a comfortable, upright position where you can breathe deeply, where you can find a place of relaxation, to step aside. You can enjoy your wine and a haircut if you'd like, unlike the Nazarite, but do take this time for contemplation, for rest, for finding that deep holiness. As we take just a minute to arrive here and to separate out from the week that has passed and to welcome this Shabbat of peace and of holiness.
La